Now, let me officially say good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As most of you know, I'm Yoselyn Doyle, Program Specialist with the Division of Community Assistance in the Office of Community Services. Today's webinar is FY26 CSBG State Plan Webinar, Diving Deeper, Section 1 through 7. As you enter the webinar, please let us know your name, where you are joining from, and what you hope to learn today in the chat. On behalf of the Office of Community Services Division of Community Assistance, I welcome you to the second of 3 FY26 Community Services Block Grant State Plan webinars. During today's webinar, you will hear from members of the DCA Program Operations Branch as we provide an overview of the requirements for a complete FY26 CSBG state plan, including timelines and the CSBG eligible entity list, the SF424M, as well as a deeper dive into sections 1 through 7. We will end the webinar with closing remarks from Verna Best and time for questions. Again, we ask that all questions are entered into our Q&A pod. The third of the FY26 CSBG State Plan webinars, diving deeper into sections 8 through 15, will take place on Monday, August 4th, 2025, from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Please register using the link provided in the chat.
And Yoselyn, can you pause for just 1 second? We're getting information that the chat is not enabled. And so I want to make sure our participants are able to enter their information. So if we can pause just for a moment so that we can get that done, then we can get started again. Thank you.
Absolutely, no problem.
I have checked it and I've re-enabled everything.
Thank you, Fred.
Okay.
Yep, we got the all clear. You can continue, Yoselyn. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Alrighty, everyone. So CSBG plays a vital role in reducing poverty, revitalizing communities with low income, and empowering individuals and families with low income to become self-sufficient. As stewards of CSBG funding, you are tasked with ensuring that the services funded with CSBG dollars reach those who need it most. With continued effort and a pulse on innovative and effective anti-poverty strategies, OCS and the CSBG network can continue to assist individuals, families, and communities reach their fullest potential. The CSBG plan is the guide to implementing an efficient and effective anti-poverty strategy that can change lives across the communities that we serve. So the peak framework detailed on this slide reminds us of the tools which can be used to successfully administer CSBG. Within the peak framework, the state plan is listed under accountability and knowledge. However, aspects of the state plan are included across all areas. So that's performance, evaluation, accountability, availability, and knowledge. So for performance, the CSBG grant recipient should utilize the planning process to think through, identify, and define expected outcomes and service goals that establish performance targets and that address community needs. Assessments, the ACSI survey, organizational standards, and training and technical assistance should be considered as part of the state plan development process. A strong CSBG state plan should also ensure evaluation processes are informed by training and technical assistance, how the eligible entities are performing as it relates to their success with the org standards, as well as monitoring. Submission of the state plan is part of accountability. So requiring you to comply with the CSBG Act to receive the funding and to demonstrate that systems are in place at the state level to demonstrate stewardship of those resources. Alrighty. The state plan is key to ensuring the availability of CSBG services for individuals and families navigating poverty. Finally, the state plan addresses knowledge. So ensuring that CSBG administrators are well aware of the state of their state as it relates to needs, strategies, and partnership to make that data-driven decisions to determine the most impactful uses of CSBG. State administrators should be well-versed in and use available guidance and learn from the best practices to successfully administer CSBG. In summary, the PEAK framework can serve as a visual reminder of the tools you have to assist you with the administration of CSBG. The submission of a CSBG state application and plan become requirement for eligibility following the passage of the CSBG Act. The CSBG state plan serves as the application for CSBG funding and provides a roadmap detailing how each state will administer funds in support of meeting the 3 national program goals. So that's 1, eliminate the causes and consequences of poverty. 2, empower low-income families and individuals to become self-sufficient. And 3, to this word is not my friend today, revitalize low-income communities. Completing the state plan is not just about meeting a legislative requirement. It serves as a tool for continuous quality improvement as a way for states to develop and implement important processes to ensure that CSBG funds are successfully and responsibly administered. All FY26 CSBG state plans are due by September 1st, 2025. The state plan is based on the federal fiscal year, which goes from October 1st through September 30th. Grant recipients have the option to submit a CSBG state plan that covers 1 fiscal year to 2 consecutive fiscal years. For this submission, a 1-year plan would cover FY26 or October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026. A 2-year plan would cover FY26 and FY27, which covers October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2027. After submitting by September 1st, 2025, GCA will work quickly to provide thorough feedback within 10 days of submission. Being familiar with the requirements and sections of the plan, this process can begin early and ensure that you are closer to reaching the peak. The key components of a complete CSBG state plan submission includes the following: the CSBG eligible entity list, the standard form for federal assistance, also known as the SF424M, and sections 1 through 15 of the CSBG state plan, including an up-to-date designation letter. As a reminder, the CSBG state plan is subject to all requirements of the CSBG Act, including the public hearing requirement. The states in maroon are those listed in Group A in the action transmittal, and these states are required to submit a complete CSBG state plan for the FY26 CSBG state plan cycle. OCS strongly encourages all CSBG grant recipients who are developing their applications and plans for FY26 to ensure that intended plans, services, strategies, and expenditures fund under CSBG, including those made by subrecipients or contractors, are aligned with the Secretary's directives and do not support diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI initiatives, or any other initiatives that are unlawfully discriminative on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, or any other protected characteristics. The states in teal are part of Group B. In the action transmittal, these states are not required to submit a complete state plan for FY26. The listed states and territories under Group B may still revise their accepted CSBG state plan. However, OCS does not require states to revise their accepted 2-year state plans. Please note that the action transmittal asks CSBG grant recipients with accepted 2-year plans ending in September 30th, 2026 to review and revise accepted plans to ensure they are consistent with the executive orders and the secretarial directive on DEI related funding, and as prescribed by the directive, do not support, again, DEI initiatives or any other initiatives that discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, or any other protected characteristic. Please note that we have not been given a listing of examples, so we encourage states to make sure your plans encompass strategies that are in line with the purposes and goals of CSBG as outlined in the Act. The CSBG grant recipients with previously accepted 2-year plans must submit any revised plans or notify OCS that no revision is necessary by November 3rd, 2025. These revisions are subject to the requirements of submitting a full plan, including having a public inspection and the authorized official certify the report. Again, a complete CSBG state plan includes the CSBG eligible entity list, the SF424M, and sections 1 through 15. In today's webinar, we will be reviewing the CSBG eligible entity list, the SF424M, and sections 1 through 7. We encourage you to take notes as we present each section and open the state plan PDF tool so you can complete sections as we go. Perfect. So let's begin with the CSBG eligible entity list. The CSBG eligible entity list serves as the official listing of all CSBG eligible entities receiving not less than 90% of funds. The list uses the Unique Entity Identifier, or UEI, which serves as an identifying number for each eligible entity. The UEI is included in the CSBG Smart Forms and allows OCS to assist with tracking of changes. The CSBG entity list is required for all CSBG state and territory grant recipients. It's used to pre-populate several areas of the CSBG state plan, specifically items 5.1, 7.2, and 10.2. For this reason, CSBG eligible entity list must be submitted prior to initializing a new plan. As the entity list also feeds into the CSBG annual report smart forms, OCS is requesting all revisions to be completed as soon as possible. Upon initializing the plan, please review item 5.1 to ensure you have added or removed any entity from the list as necessary. This includes for reasons such as dedesignation or redesignation, designations, or voluntary relinquishments and mergers. These changes must align with your response in the noted items, excuse me, in section 5 of the plan as well. If your CSBG eligible entity list has changed in year 2 of the accepted CSBG state plan, please work with your CSBG program specialist and policy, data, and evaluation specialist to revise. Alrighty. The SF424M is submitted as the cover page of the CSBG state plan and is a requirement of the Office of Grants Management. It informs OGM of the authorized official who OGM sends the notice of award to. Of importance, the individual entered within the SF424M must match the authorized official as described in the CSBG state plan item 1.2 and the designation letter which is attached to the CSBG state plan item 1.3. If the SF424M is not aligned with item 1.2 and the attached letter, the program specialist will notify the grant recipient of needed changes. Prior to submission of the SF42M, it's also critical to ensure the unique identity identifier, so the UEI, is correct. It's an automated field and should not be overlooked to ensure funding is available to be drawn down. Please note, if the authorized official changes, the CSBG grant recipient is required to revise their CSBG state plan, even if in the second of a previously approved 2-year plan, okay? And that includes revising the SF424M as well as the authorized official contact information under item 1.2 and updating the designation letter. Please also alert your OCS program specialist if the authorized official changes to ensure that the correct contact information is in place. Let's dive into sections 1 through 7. In section 1, CSBG lead agency, CSBG authorized official, CSBG point of contact, and official state designation letters is the state administrative section of the plan. The purpose is for the state to provide information about its agency, the staff, and the type of CSBG state plan being submitted, such as a 1-year or a 2-year plan. The state must also provide the contact information for the state association within its state, if there is one. More specifically, in section 1, states must provide contact information for their primary office, including address, the name of the authorized official, the name of the CSBG program contact, and a copy of the state designation letter. Please ensure that the designation letter is current. DCA uses the letter to verify that the state plan is certified by the actual authorized official. The point of contact cannot certify the plan unless designated. The authorized official should be approved by the chief executive officer of the state, and the letter should include, at a minimum, the state CSBG lead agency and the title of the authorized official of the lead agency administering the CSBG grant. Rounding out section 1 is the contact information for the State Community Action Association. If there is a state association in your state, please provide the complete contact information, including the name of the association and their point of contact. Remember, section 1 is important as it allows the state to ensure the correct individuals are identified to the federal government. Moving forward to section 2. State legislation and regulation allows the state to identify if there is a state legislation and or regulations for the administration of CSBG. As evidence of a legislation or regulation, states must provide documentation in item 2.3 via an attachment or a functional hyperlink. If necessary, or it is necessary that the CSBG lead agency complete the section accurately, as it allows OCS to ensure that grant recipients are administering funds in compliance with federal and state legislation and regulations. The flexibility of a block grant like CSBG requires the state to issue sound and clear guidance. In many instances, the state will hear from DCA, what does your state regularly say? Or regulation say? What does your state regulation say? It's important to note that if the state legislation or state regulation is silent, the CSBG Act will govern. For example, if the state rules do not prescribe the poverty line for eligibility, then the CSBG Act will govern.
Yoselin, I'm going to
Yes.
stop you for just a moment to get you to check your connection because you're going in and out just a bit. I want to make sure everyone can hear you.
Sure. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, everyone. It's saying that I have full bars.
And
But please feel free to, go ahead.
we can hear you, but it might be helpful for you to be off camera just in case so that we can get the audio clear.
Sounds good.
If it continues to glitch, I don't mind taking over as well.
Thank you, team. Yes, please feel free to speak up. Let me know if I cut off again. Sorry about that. Alrighty, so let's see. I believe I left off, we were talking about the block grant structure and what it provides. So it provides states the autonomy to establish rules as long as they do not conflict with the act. Some states establish 100% as the FLP or FPL, which is allowed because it does not exceed what is established by the law or congressional action. So it is not in conflict. It's important for state administrators to know your state rules and the act as they should work in tandem for the administration of CSBG. The purpose of Section 3, the state plan development and statewide goals, is to collect information on the state CSBG lead agency's vision, to utilize CSBG funds in accordance with the CSBG Act, and the state accountability measures. Here, the state will provide information about their mission and responsibilities, their CSBG specific goals for the period covered by the plan, and the resources used to inform the development of the state plan, including tools or materials with the data about the communities served, consultations with other agencies, and feedback from eligible entities. For practice, please take a moment and enter in the chat one CSBG goal specific to your state. For Section 3, OCS requests that states provide clear and robust goals in their plan. Their goals should be advancing the mission and vision of CSBG and should be specific, measurable, and reflecting the current needs of the eligible entities. Section 3 also requests that the state list the resources used to inform the development of the state plan, including tools or materials with data about the community served, consultations of other agencies, and feedback from the eligible entities. While the section may not always change, we encourage states to review it and ensure it is still aligned and relevant. Give this section the merit that it is due. OCS encourages continuous learning and improvement and tries to amplify innovative efforts for our grant recipients. This includes in analyzing state and local tools and goals to identify areas for improvement and bring the stakeholder input to the decision-making table. The ultimate purpose of this process is to ensure the plan will best serve the communities across the state. Overall, Section 3 is meant to encourage states to align the mission and goals of CSBG to the overall mission of the state, to include voices of participants in the feedback loop, to examine and update local level tools such as community needs assessment, to better understand and address community needs, and to ensure engagement in continuous learning and process improvements based on feedback mechanisms such as performance management data and the American Customer Satisfaction Index, ACSI survey. CSBG Information Memorandum 150, use of the ACSI to improve network effectiveness, provides guidance to states to help set realistic, reasonable, and attainable goals for eligible entity overall satisfaction and to help encourage continued collaboration through feedback. And moving forward to Section 4. The purpose of Section 4 is to verify that the state meets requirements for the public notice, the public hearing, and the legislative hearing for CSBG state plans as required in Section 676 of the CSBG Act. To complete Section 4, grant recipients should include information on the process for granting public access to the CSBG state plan and completion of public hearing, which occur every year, and the legislative hearings, which occur every 3 years, as well as combined hearings, which is one joint public and legislative hearing as applicable. While a combined hearing is an option, We ask that you strategically consider whether conducting a joint hearing maximizes input and further provides maximum feasible participation. Think about whether those who are being served will be inclined to or able to attend a legislative hearing. Ultimately, public input is essential for ensuring that CSBG is accurately reflecting locally driven solutions for locally identified needs. As such, the grant recipient should detail how they provided the public with sufficient time to provide feedback on the CSBG state plan. Distribution to the public should include distribution directly to the eligible entities. So that can be via email or publication on a public website with specific notification to the eligible entities or meetings, as well as any other interested parties. Grant recipients need to provide documentation, including but not limited to agendas, sign-in sheets, transcripts, and notice or advertisements of the hearing. To re-emphasize, ensuring the public receives notice for review of the CSBG state plan and hearings is crucial, as public input is important to ensuring CSBG is accurately reflecting the needs of the community. To encourage participation, some considerations include the following, and you can see them on this slide as well. Consider the purpose of the hearings. Maximum feasible participation is a key tenet of community action and CSBG. Ask yourself, how can we reach more people and communities, in the communities that we serve, and ensure that their recommendations are reflected in the CSBG state plan? Utilize all resources available to reach people and communities where they are, such as through the state plan the state association, and or the eligible entities themselves or partner organizations. You have the option of reaching people at statewide events, such as festivals or celebrations. Can the plan be made available through use of QR codes, which can be scanned at various locations? Such engagement with your state planning process will only strengthen the plan itself and strengthen your approach to administering the grant. With that in mind, consider providing no fewer than 30 days for the public to provide feedback. The extended period provides adequate time for notifications to reach the communities, and for the communities to find time to actually review and provide input. Grant recipients should consider providing a draft of the state plan to eligible entities early in the process and for adequate amount of time to receive input while the plan is still being developed. We have seen states who hold virtual gatherings, in-person meetings, and or some provide an email with the draft plan and encourage an encouragement to provide feedback from eligible entities prior to sharing for public viewing. As to engagement with the hearings, OCS encourages states to think creatively and to explore new ways to increase participation of stakeholders in the hearings. And now it's time for an activity. Please share in the chat a best practice for encouraging participation in public hearings and or a unique ways you advertise for public hearings. Again, use the chat to tell us how you advertise public hearings. And as you're doing that, I want to welcome my colleague Renee Brooks, who will now take over at Section 5.
Woohoo. Thank you, Yoselin. Hi, everyone. Now let's move on to Section 5. So the purpose of Section 5, CSBG eligible entities, is to collect entity level data on CSBG eligible entities, including entity type, service area, and information on any important changes to the eligible entity list. A requirement CSBG is to ensure that we are getting 90% of funding to the communities we serve, and that is done through our eligible entities, making this section very important. The eligible entity list is crucial to the completion of Section 5. Item 5.1 is the official listing of all CSBG eligible entities receiving the not less than 90% of funds allocated to the CSBG grant recipients. The list pre-populates from the CSBG eligible entity list, again, emphasizing the need to make timely and accurate revisions to the list, and preferably prior to initializing the plan. If 5.1 does not pre-populate, please contact your program specialist for additional assistance. A common area requiring additional TNTA from the federal office regards changes to eligible entities. While we all hope these changes do not occur, it is important to understand what each change means. Items 5.3A, B, and C are utilized to share any changes to the previous roster of eligible entities. By accurately completing this section, grant recipients can better understand where targeted TNTA may be required and to help ensure service areas are not going without access. Briefly regarding 5.3, this is newly designated or redesignated CSBG eligible entities. Newly designated entities have completed the full designation process as described in the CSBG state lead policies and will receive funding for the fiscal years covered by the CSBG state plan. A redesignation occurs when an entity that is already receiving CSBG funds will receive additional funds to serve an additional geographical area previously covered by a different entity. A redesignation can be temporary, such as when one agency voluntarily relinquishes funds, so an already existing entity from a nearby community serves the geographical area while the state identifies a new local agency, or it can be permanent. Regarding item 5.3b, CSBG eligible entities that have been completely de-designated and or voluntarily relinquished funds since the previous state plan will no longer receive funding for the fiscal year which the CSBG state plan covers. The eligible entity should be removed from the CSBG eligible entity list and no longer appear under item 5.1. And then regarding item 5.3c, mergers happen when two or more CSBG eligible entities that were previously separate decide to merge to provide services. For all types of changes, we encourage you to have clear and detailed policies and procedures on the steps required to ensure communities in your state do not go unserved. Please share any expected changes to the eligible entity list with the federal office as soon as possible. The federal office is here to support grant recipients with the processes of actions such as de-designations, mergers, and voluntary relinquishments, as well as how to support eligible entities before such actions are needed. If your state has gone through a merger process in the past 2 years, please reach out to your assigned program specialist and share details on this process. This topic seems to be emerging, and we want to ensure that we are in contact with our grant recipients who have eligible entities who have merged. All right, everyone. Now it's time for our favorite activity, which is a poll question. So I have a quick question for y'all. True or false? Grant recipients must implement the Center of Excellence or COE's CSBG organizational standards for eligible entities. And I'm going to launch the poll. All right, it is time. And I see answers coming in. Interesting. All right, I'm going to, nope, we got one more. I'm gonna allow 5 more seconds. All right, I think I'm going to end it. All right, so the correct answer is false. The state can implement the COE CSBG organizational standards, a modified version of COE CSBG organizational standards, or an alternative set of standards. Section 678B of the CSBG Act requires state CSBG lead agencies to establish performance goals, administrative standards, financial management requirements, and other requirements that ensure an appropriate level of accountability and quality among the state's eligible entities that receive CSBG funds. However, the Act does not specify organizational standards. All right, that one was a tricky one, y'all. And thank y'all for participating. All right, now on to Section 6. So in Section 6, states will describe their procedures related to organizational standards for eligible entities. This includes the choice of standards you will be implementing, such as those developed by the OCS-funded Organizational Standards Center of Excellence, or COE, the COE version with modifications, or an alternative standard. While states have discretion on the set of standards they may use, OCS recommends states use the organizational standards developed by the COE because they lay a foundation for meeting the requirements of the CSBG Act, good management practices, and the values of community action. In this section, the state will also provide information on the state level implementation process, the assessment procedures, including corrective action procedures and special circumstances and/or exceptions to that process. The information that states provide in this section allows OCS to assess if the state's policies and procedures meet the requirements under the CSBG Act and identify any needed training and technical assistance. The state should review IM 138 to better understand the state's roles and responsibilities for the establishment of organizational standards for eligible entities. IM 138 serves as a guidance tool for states and eligible entities to better understand what the organizational standards are, to establish robust assessment processes, and to identify promising practices and other tools. All right. And before we delve further into Section 6, I'm going to provide a brief overview on how the organizational standards were developed. Several sections of the CSBG Act provide authority or require OCS to collect information from states as part of the state plan or annual report regarding how the state will meet requirements of the CSBG Act. These requirements are noted in Section 678B of the CSBG Act, which requires state CSBG lead agencies to establish performance goals, administrative standards, financial management requirements, and other requirements. These ensure an appropriate level of accountability and quality among the state's eligible entities that receive CSBG funds. Now, in 2012, OCS funded a cooperative agreement for the CSBG Organizational Standards Center of Excellence, or also known as COE. The COE was charged with developing a set of organizational standards designed to ensure that eligible entities have the capacity to provide high-quality services to families and communities with low income. It gathered input from local, state, and national partners and established the CSBG Working Group, which consisted of 50 members from across the network. The purpose of the resulting organizational standards is to ensure that eligible entities have the organizational capacity necessary to administer the CSBG. Implemented in fiscal year 2016, the organizational standards are composed of 3 thematic groups with 9 categories and a total of 58 standard for private, nonprofit entities, and 50 standards for public entities. The 3 themes are maximum feasible participation, vision and direction, and operations and accountability. The COE developed organizational standards work together to characterize an effective and healthy organization. To fulfill the promise of the standards, states must provide consistent and high-quality oversight and technical assistance related to organizational standards. Again, the state should review IM 138 to better understand the state's roles and responsibilities for the establishment of organizational standards for eligible entities. I am a little curious if anyone on the call today was a part of the group that contributed to the development of organizational standards. Drop in the chat, I helped if you were a part of that process. Ooh, Jacqueline Orr helped. And I'll let my colleagues interact in the chat as more people, if more people participate. OCS recommends that the state establish a comprehensive assessment process that includes clear communication, Verna Best helped, clear communication to eligible entities and annual assessment on the status of standards among all the eligible entities for reporting to OCS in the CSBG annual report, and an assurance that the assessment of standards is independently verified by the state or a third party. Also essential is a well-informed process, and therefore the state is strongly encouraged to collaborate with the eligible entities and state association to set appropriate targets to meet the state's goals. Stakeholders in the local CSBG network can provide valuable insight on the organizational capacity of eligible entities, the realistic achievement of performance targets, and areas for training and technical assistance that will be needed to achieve the new target. We also want to emphasize that organizational standards should supplement your state's monitoring process. It should not be the only component when conducting your state's monitoring of the eligible entities. For example, Standard 5.2 says the organization's governing board has written procedures that document a democratic selection process for low-income board members, adequate to assure that they are representative of the low-income community. However, having written procedures and following them and implementing them are two different things. Food for thought. All right. Now, on to section 7, state use of funds. It is a critical segment of the state plan as it outlines how funds will be allocated, distributed, and managed among eligible entities, and the use of any remaining funds for administrative expenses and discretionary spending. Section 7 allows OCS to see a comprehensive picture of how funding is planned for use, along with the financial management and accountability principles the states are implementing. Under the CSBG Act, Section 675C, lowercase a, states are required to demonstrate a planned allocation of no less than 90% of the funds to eligible entities. This supports the block grant structure and CSBG's focus on local service delivery to address locally identified needs. It ensures resources are used among those who need them most. To help visualize this distribution, the state plan provides a table that outlines the percentage of allocated funds for each eligible entity receiving funds during the fiscal year or years addressed by the plan. By doing so, recipients promote transparency and facilitate better understanding of how these funds are utilized. It is important to note that this data will directly impact the state's annual report, specifically in Module 1, Table E.2. The distribution timeframe referenced in Item 7.4 ensures that allocated funds reach eligible entities within 30 calendar days following the federal award by OCS. The prompt distribution of these funds is crucial in ensuring aid reaches those who need. Item 7.4a requires states who fail to meet this 30-day deadline have proper procedures in place to ensure funds remain available to eligible entities consistently and without interruption. Item 7.4a directly connects to State Accountability Measure 25A and may affect your state's annual report form. Overall, efficiency and transparency in procedures creates better performance in evaluation systems and fosters a sense of accountability among all involved. Under the CSBG Act, Section 675C, lowercase b2, grant recipients can use up to 5% or $55,000 of their CSBG funds toward administrative activities. Item 7.6 plays a vital role in determining the percentage of the planned allocation dedicated to these activities for the fiscal years covered by the state plan. To complete this section effectively, consider the following activities. Review your organization's budget and historical allocation percentages for administrative activities. Analyze any trends or changes in these allocations and determine if adjustments are needed for the upcoming fiscal years. Consider the impact of any new programs or initiatives in your community that may require additional administrative support. Ensure that the specified percentage is aligned with your overall strategic plan and goals for community development. And keep documentation supporting your allocations decisions readily available for reference during potential audits or reviews. Please keep in mind that this information pre-populates the state's annual report, specifically Module 1, Table E.4. Now, lastly, according to the CSBG Act, Section 675C, lowercase b1, after distributing at least 90% of CSBG funds to eligible entities and up to an optional 5% for administrative purposes, the grant recipient may use the remainder of their appropriation for discretionary purposes. This may be up to 10% if funds were not used for administrative purposes. The Act details several approved activities for which discretionary funds can be used. The table, consisting of items 7.9A through 7.9H, allows for the grant recipient to identify how much of the remainder funds are being utilized across authorized uses, such as competitive funding opportunities for local eligible entities, TNTA activities, and supporting innovative programs and activities, and to provide a brief description of the services and activities. OCS asks for this information to understand in what ways discretionary funds are being used. Please keep in mind that this information pre-populates the state's annual report, specifically Module 1, Table E.7, and is associated with State Accountability Measures 33SA. Ensuring accuracy across Section 7 will not only streamline your reporting process, but also reflect your commitment to transparency and responsible management of CSBG funds. By being proactive and diligent about completing all of Section 7, you will contribute to a properly managed CSBG program that fosters growth and development within your communities. Alrighty, so before we wrap up, I want to make a few notes about the Online Data Collection System, or OLDC, which is where you will complete and submit your CSBG state plan. At least 2 people from your office will likely need OLDC access. If they do not have it already, the person who will complete the state plan and the authorized official who will certify and submit it. If you need help troubleshooting with OLDC, please reach out to the Policy Data and Evaluation branch using the contact information that has been dropped in the chat. You will want to copy your assigned program specialist and your data and evaluation specialist to ensure a timely response. And then each region is assigned a program specialist and a policy and data and evaluation specialist for targeted and general technical assistance. Please reach out to your assigned program specialist and copy the policy data and evaluation specialist. We work closely as a team and request that you include both contacts and any outreach. You can find your regional contacts on the page that is shared in the chat. If you are having issues with OLDC with your OLDC account, please contact the Grant Solutions Help Desk and copy both your program specialist and PDE specialist.